Hola, bienvenido, annyeonghaseyo. Soy Scott con Way of Water Arts. Welcome to Taiji episode 2. I'm very excited because we are going to introduce the Taiji Hip today. Taiji Hip is very important for being able to open up your hip joint, loosen it up, create space within it so that when you grow older, hopefully you won't have any hip problems. Also, the Taiji Hip helps with martial arts and any kind of sporting activity, walking, activities of daily living. Being able to have a healthy, open hip that's flexible, fluid, and can move is so important for whatever you're doing in life. So our last episode, Taiji episode 1, we talked about first making sure that you're lining up your structure, having your weight centered in the areas that it needs to be, and then we added the weight shift. So this was Taiji episode 1. Now as you shift between yin yang, empty and full, you want to make sure that as you shift, you're feeling every little bit of weight distribution change that you can be aware of. The first thing is you have to be aware of how much weight you're putting in one of your feet. So right now, with Taiji episode 1, we are doing the weight shift. I have 100% of my weight in this leg. And how do you test if you have 100% there? You float your other one and your feet should be flat until you're ready to check and make sure that you're completely full and empty. So we just gently float that up. The toe is the last part to come up. Heel comes up first, go through that foot, toe comes up last, yes. And now when you lift that foot up, you have to make sure that your full leg is completely aligned with your body now. Do you see how my head, my spine, my torso, my hips, now this side is my new middle, and we only have our weight on one foot right now. So it's very important that you have that foot centered on you. Look at it, looks almost like a triangle. Up here, filters down into a triangle. You want to make sure that you're at the center of that triangle. Now, as we switch our weight back, do it nice and slow. Fill this up. This is about 10% full, 20% full. And as this is getting fuller, this is getting lesser. That is integrating yin yang. Very important. So now we test this one. Heel comes up first. Are we 100% here? Yep. Do I look like I have my weight centered in the middle of me? Do you have that triangle position? So you want to make sure that you're not leaning this way. You really have to keep those joints in alignment, keep the structure, keep it nice and open, and don't forget to breathe. When you're breathing, we're making sure that we're using our diaphragm, our belly breathing. So when you breathe in, the belly goes out. When you breathe out, the belly goes down. So that we're incorporating a whole bunch of things into this. You incorporate Qigong, Tai Chi, all the principles and philosophy of Wuji. Now, to get to episode 2 of my Tai Chi series, we're adding the Taiji Hip. Very important. And when we're doing this, it's best, if you're just a new beginner to this, it's best to start out with your weight under both of your feet equal. So 50% of your weight here, 50% of your weight here. And at first, you're probably not going to be able to use all of your hip to open up. The way that you can really tell if you're completely open and folding with this hip is with the weight shift. But since we're just beginning now, we'll just do it from here. So I like to have my hands out in front of me here. Look, it's lined up here, just out like that. We're still keeping our Wuji principles. We're open in our armpits here. Hands come out into like you're holding a ball. It's right here. And a reason that we do that is that we want to make sure that when we're doing our Taiji Hip, it's basically like a folding. Your hip joint is open, but you're able to move that hip joint side to side. Many people, when they're using their hips, they're just going forward and back. With the Taiji Hip, we're increasing the range of motion laterally. And your hip joint is like a ball, so it should be able to rotate at all these different positions. However, people, as we age, the cartilage wears down, the space decreases, but we have to keep that hip healthy. So this exercise is great for keeping that hip healthy and open. So when you're starting here, when you're brand new, I like to keep this here so that you keep that single column, because you don't want to be using your shoulders to turn your body. You want to be turning from your hip. You're opening up your hip here. So it's very important that you try your best not to move from your torso. You want to keep your whole spine in alignment. When your hip folds down here, it goes like this. The whole thing turns. Your spine is in alignment. You're not twisting your neck. You're not twisting the upper part. You're folding from the hip. So as a beginner, this is what that might look like. And if you just start there, just starting to be aware of, you have the ability in your hip to move laterally. Not only does it move forward and back like we do when we're walking or running, but we need to be able to move this way too to keep that hip healthy, lateral movement. So in martial arts and sporting activities, you realize how important that is to keep that, open up that lateral movement of that hip. And being a nurse in orthopedics, I have dealt with a lot of people who've had hip surgery, knee surgery, and if you're gonna have any surgery, you really wanna try and stay away from hip surgeries, because that is at your core. The closer you are to your core, the harder it is to be able to repair that and make it functional again. So there are people who get hip surgeries and they're fine. But if you want to try and avoid a hip surgery at all costs, yes, by all means. The knee surgery, that's a little bit easier because it's further away from your body. So knee surgeries are pretty common. There's not, there's things we can do in Tai Chi to prevent that. But I'm just saying, if you had a choice between hip and knee surgery, you'd probably want the knee surgery, because the closer you are to your core here, the more intricate and weight-bearing those areas are of your body. And you don't want to be sticking screws and metal rods in there. So keep it healthy now, and then hopefully we can avoid that hip surgery. So once again, Taiji episode 2. Episode 1, we introduced the weight shift. Now episode 2, we're introducing the Taiji Hip. Keep using that lateral movement, opening it up, creating space, keeping the joint nice and fluid. There's lubrication in there. There's a fluid in your hip joint, that synovial fluid, and that's what keeps your hip loose. So start doing your practice now so that you can be happy and healthy in your life. So thank you very much. I'm Scott with Wavewater Arts. Annyeonghaseyo.